All right, we're going to get going here. Today's date is February 14th in the year 2024. I'm out under the sun, something that I think that we all should be doing as we approach solar maximum. And it's because of where we are in the solar cycle and the fact that it's going to be a strong cycle that I predict we're going to see not only unrest and more births and more deaths from the wars. We're going to see more people go off grid. We're going to see more people flee the cities. And it's not just what's happening financially. It's not just what's happening geopolitically. It's what's happening astrologically. And again, the solar flares. When the sun is active, we are more active. We are more energized. And sometimes people go out and they drink and they're irresponsible with their energy. And so some of you have been thinking about going off grid for a while. Thinking about 5 main areas: the Florida area, the New York area, along with DC, the Texas situation, the situation that people will be in Portland, as well as Colorado. So I'm just going to attempt to give some advice on these 5 areas, right? The most obvious is that there's a lot of people on the East Coast and there's a lot of nuclear power plants. I'm going to make references to past interviews. 10 years ago, I interviewed Matthew Stein, who wrote the book When Technology Fails, and if you do some digging, you'll find my 3-hour interview with him. I was homeless 1 week later. I've done a lot of good work for this world that hasn't always been recognized. A lot of my preparedness books are in Portland, and I'll never see them again because the person that was storing my stuff is MIA. So I'm having to rebuild my preps after my off-grid experience in Pagosa Springs, and it's not cheap. But I'm just getting the very basics. So you should too, and you need to know, and I'm not guaranteeing you anything. I'm not going to guarantee you that China's going to invade in the next year. I'm saying that the warning signs are there, and I've been on the case for a while. So if it doesn't happen in the peak of this solar cycle, you can bet we're still heading that direction in the 2030s. This is not over after 2025. What I am convinced of is that this pattern of wars breaking out in around the peak of the solar cycle, and sometimes there's a double peak, we see things happening. We saw the rise in Occupy in 2009 and 10 as the solar cycle is ramping up. On my 29th birthday in February in 2009, I wrote the article that was later published worldwide in Nexus. I was only 29, okay? So I'm trying to get you to understand that there's more to know about the sun than crops, right? And theories about grand solar minimum. You can have your theories, that's fine. But I'm going to talk about how I know I'm affected by the sun, for better or for worse. And so look at the ways in which we're affected, and not to sound new agey, create your own reality, so to speak. I'm outside right now. I am barefoot, I am grounding, and I want to provide advice regarding the situation. So if there's a power plant meltdown, we're looking at a situation where people will be fleeing the cities, and if you're not already where you're going to be, how are you going to get there if you can't access the freeways? So wherever you are, you need to prepare for staying in your apartment, at least have a few weeks of food. Freeze-dried food is what some people do because it doesn't take a lot of prep. Some people like MREs. Some people will only eat organic. Some people are vegan. You need to figure out what you eat and how you're going to eat that when there's no fridge. So New York and Florida, there could be a situation, obviously, where they're fleeing inland, obviously. I'm going to tell you briefly, in Florida, when I went to the RNC as a nonpartisan person that was covering the events there, I became aware of a massive foreign troop exercise involving a lot of nations, and I got videos about this that I put out there years ago. Some of you in Oregon know that I covered Top Off 4, which was a Homeland Security exercise, right, that they ran and managed in the city of my birth, right, capitalizing on the fear caused by the staged 9/11 event. So they basically created somewhat of a zombie apocalypse in the city of my birth. So, you know, with their little drill. If there's another outbreak, people are more likely, because we weren't really told the full truth, and that would take longer to get into. You weren't really told the full truth, and they divided us based on left and right. And people that identify with left and right politics identified with a certain specific in the box, not outside the box, in the box and predictable. In the box and predictable. That's how you see the mind control. Right wing, left wing. Right wing say this, left wing say this. With very few, with an independent, I'm not going to do this left right. I'm going to not necessarily trust the science, but hear out the concerns, but also have some healthy skepticism without being a right-wing nutbag saying 5G causes coronavirus. No offense to those that have made that their religion, that have made fake news that you cannot prove the facts their religion, just like Trump and Biden. So, they have screwed up our economy, and they're putting us in danger. So whether you're left or right, a lot of you are going to want to go off-grid in the future. You need to know about the challenges you face. You need to know that a lot of people have ended up in Portland because they can't park overnight where they live. You need to know that there may be a mass exodus in Portland, so where are you going to go? If the threat is coming from China and they're coming in from the coast, what direction are you going to go, class? It's like, the ocean, I don't know, unless they line up on the ocean like, come get your microchips, loaded with $100,000, as Leon predicted. Come and get your microchips, your cotton candy, and everything else. And yeah, fun for the whole family. They'll have rides. They'll have like the UFO ride that they have at Waterfront Park every year at the Rose Garden. Like, whoa, you know, get a microchip, get like a dopamine hit. You know, maybe they'll calibrate it so like you feel like you're tripping on Molly and be like, oh yeah. You got to get prepared, and you want to get away from the danger zone. So if they invade through the West Coast, I worry about women's safety, and I've always seen Portland as a danger zone because, don't let it go to your head, there's a lot of prettier women there. There's a lot of traffickers that use the I-5 corridor. And so having a lot of pretty women that are seen as more important than other women in other parts of the U.S. in a collapse situation that can bite you in the ass. For years, some people have been benefiting from a society in which their gender and their appearance and their height and their ethnicity is considered more valuable than others. And sometimes they don't owe up to that. That's where some of their luxurious lifestyle and the ability to enjoy that, where that comes from. Whereas some of us, we struggle to make a few hundred a month, and we can't go out there and, you know, get the support that other people support when we speak the truth, because some people are lost in illusions of separation. So if I was in another body, I know for a fact that all my years of warning you and countless shows on prepping and getting out of Portland or other places in the event of a disaster, it's been an uphill battle. And so at this point, I'm really doing this for you, okay? Wherever I end up, I don't know. I want to be off-grid this summer for at least a vacation, but we could be in a situation even before then, World War III or a meltdown. And as far as the grid going down from a cyber attack, either from Russia and China, as I see them pawns as the New World Order, as a part of the New World Order, unlike Clyde Lewis and Alex Jones. Okay. And so, if they're going to use these foreign governments to take down our grid, then we could deal with, when they bring back the grid, some sort of ethno-state shadow government dystopia. So for those of you that turn your nose up at conspiracy theories, no, and not when you have your own about Trump and Russia. You just need to understand, and this offends some people, that I think some of that stuff's true. I think you got to be an idiot to see me interview Joel Skousen and see Joel Skousen talking to me in Portland, Oregon, off of MLK at Open Signal, cable access, and see him worrying about Russia when Obama's the president, but when Trump's the president, Russia can do no wrong. I call BS on that. So let's talk about this. Central Oregon is where it's at. If you have land there, I would encourage you to start building independent communities. I've never been to Ashland, but I hear there's communities there that are involved in, you know, the theater and things of that nature. Eastern Oregon is rough, a lot of right-wing thinking, but some people might go out that far. But I've never been to Bend. It has been made public recently that China owns a lot of land in Oregon, in and around the Bend area. I have a relative, I think, over in that direction, Zoe Ansary. So you can be half Anglo, half Afghani and be a TikTok model and not talk about the murder of your ancestors. So I just want to keep you aware of that I've suffered because I'm ethnic and I stand up for people like you, and I'm exposing what's coming with China. And there's a lot of people out there in the alternative media that don't do that. So if some of you want to help me and you know how you can help me, Okay, this video is going to go out on Portland Cable Access. You can volunteer, you can get my words out there, you can help me write a book. Literally, we need to push this forward in the coming months, because literally we could be at World War III by the end of this election. Some of you are waking up that Biden doesn't stand with the Palestinians and he can't be trusted. You have no hero coming in 2024. So ditch the zero and get with the hero. And I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about you. Wear the shirt when I get it. You are the one. Solar cross with a dot in the middle, and own it, because it's time that we invoke spiritual power. And I'll say it, even the power of our ancestors, even some religions are against that. I didn't say worship them, I said acknowledge them. And so, as you start preparing, it's not just a matter of the physical stuff, it's spiritual, it's adjusting to the solar cycle, so you yourself don't become possessed also by this Dajjal or Antichrist or Archon, Jinn, demon, alien, ghost, poltergeist energy that is coming in. And I see the city of my birth when I look at it, and I see what's happened to Hawthorne, how it looks like Burnside. It's like evil has taken over. So Alex Ansary was right. .com, the website that hasn't been made but probably should. Get on that, because one day you might really see an AmericanForSale.com website and you're not going to like what you see. To date, racists haven't told me that they're getting better, and women in general haven't told me that they appreciate what I'm saying, with the exception of maybe like 1 to 2 on Substack. And if you're not there now, join me there. Help me build a forum, right? If you believe in invoking spiritual power, if you know about Dion Fortune, who wrote the book Psychic Self-Defense, and you're able to email me and request a copy of The Magical Battle of Britain, follow the links down below, follow the information given at the end of the tape if you're watching on cable access, and you'll get access to me, and if you're kind, I'll give you a lot of info. Are you ready to start taking your future survival and your sanity and your enlightenment to the next level? You need to prepare for what is coming and harness the power of the sun. And this is a message you're not going to hear on Coast to Coast AM. You're going to hear some people promise you the solar flash, David Wilcock, James Gillen, and people like that. I'm not promising you jack. It's you that are going to choose to make the individual shift in consciousness. I don't believe in a collective wake-up call or ascension out of the body, all mean the spiritual evolution beyond this world when your time is right. So train the martial arts, get prepared, get some legal self-defense options. I've given you some ideas already. I'm getting closer to rocks, obviously, and crystals, and meditation, and the sun. It's also a good idea to charge your water. Okay, so we're still going. So I foresee a lot of people evacuating Portland, going east, even going to places, when I was living off of Sandy, I felt like one day people would be literally like fleeing the downtown Portland area up Sandy, heading east. So it could be an attack on the city, could be an EMP, or something coming from the ocean, an announcement that China is coming from the ocean. Now, go to OregonLive.com and pull up the article and tell me somebody else told you about this. No, they didn't. You heard it here first. Give me credit. China was engaged in earthquake drill exercises in Oregon in 2017. I'm sorry, who was the president? I'm sorry, right-wingers, who was the president? That's right, your daddy, Donald Trump. So don't tell me Donald Trump did everything possible when he was the president to make sure there wasn't any major breaches in our nation. Okay, and there's also some stories about a Chinese company linked to the CCP that's renting office space in Trump Tower. So yeah, the whole game's rigged. Okay, and you need to rely on yourself. So learn how to develop community. Obviously, there's going to be a massive influx still coming from California as it gets worse, and they're basically American refugees in Portland now. So it's not just like criminals, but people that are fleeing where they're at, and it's not just the mental illness affecting the spiritual attacks is what it is. Spiritual attacks. Spiritual attacks, not mental illness. Spiritual attacks. So they're happening to everyday Janes and Joes, whether they're homeless or not. But if you're homeless and you don't have a place to shower, and you don't have a place to eat, and I've been through that experience, the spiritual attacks are more. You need to shower, you need to bathe, you need space from the people that are staring at you. You understand? So there's a reason why some of them, they go off and they're unstable, and you don't identify why. I identify with the sense of being unstable to the point of talking about being suicidal in the Hollywood district in Portland, Oregon. Who helped me then? One unstable guy who later did kill himself and later turned on me. So I'm doing this for my soul, and if some of you want to befriend me and invite me to Oregon and show me and show me what I can show others, I will be an Oregon Scout. Now let's move on, okay? Because I'm only going to speak to the areas that I'm familiar with. I also went to an area that is where the Twilight movie is set, in the north part of Washington State near Olympia State Park, and I feel like that is a good spot also, along with Port Angeles and some of those areas. Spokane seemed to be pretty right-wing, and so it seems like some people that are Russian supported, they're ethno-state leaning, seem to be strategically placing themselves in different places. And who knows, we might see a wave of some of these people through the real election fraud that they won't talk about come into power, and we're seeing this far-right move worldwide. I'm not a mainstream leftist. I think there's a lot of crazy stuff with the left, and I don't like Biden. So you got to understand, I'm a nonpartisan Gnostic. A lot of you that are political and religious will never get me, will never understand what I mean when I talk about outside the box. But some of you do, and you are, those of you that like me and support me, you are now the majority. And so now the content will improve, and the more you share my content, the more I see the numbers grow from the hundreds to the thousands. I'll even go on tour. I'd like to visit pals and put on a talk and tell the story of my life, but I want people to know about my homelessness, my targeting, how I lived off grid, and how the people of Portland weren't there for me. But I'm going to tell you folks what I think you should do if you're leaving some of these areas. So I gave you my advice on Central Oregon, and I think Eastern Oregon sucks. So just because China is invested in Central Oregon doesn't mean that you should avoid it. Idaho looks like it's targeted to be part of the ethno-state. So if you're white, you're not likely to be targeted in the ethno-state. But for those of us that aren't white, that don't pass for white, maybe to some black people, but not to whites, yeah, we're not into ethno-state places where we stand out. Because I stood out in Pagosa Springs, I suffered greatly. That's why when I was in Pagosa Springs, even though I think they should have known about my Chinese invasion reporting, they should have known about it a long time ago. But I don't want them to target me. They were too busy glamorizing the murder on social media of innocent men, women, and children in Afghanistan, calling them terrorists. How are they going to like being called terrorists when China and Russia get here? Probably not very much. If you were thinking about Colorado, the land is doubled there. Costilla County is a good spot to get away from mind control coming from the 5G and the cell phones. If China is to hack our grid and start frying our brains. There are pockets of Archuleta County and Costilla County, those two places I'm familiar with, maybe La Plata as well, but I'm not sure, where you can get away from cell phone signals. Okay, so while most people complain about that, that might be a godsend in the event that there is some major manipulation going on of human brains, right, through whatever technology they flip on. And it could also be from space, from the use of satellites. So keep this in mind. Costilla County, I'm not going to tell you all to go there, and I pulled down my videos about Costilla County for 2 years because some people that didn't like off-gridders, didn't like the fact that I did the reporting that I did. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of people did not like the fact that I stood up for off-gridders because there's a lot of crime out there. And it's too bad that a lot of mainstream folks that aren't living a crisis now or homeless now, it's good you're not homeless, but because you're not homeless, because you still have a spouse, because you still have a job, you are not off-grid, and this is the truth. That's the only reason I ended up in Costilla County is because I lost a job and I lost my income. And so there's a lot of areas in which it's fairly bigoted, off the grid. There aren't any real progressive ideas or people. There's a lot of bigots in different ethnic groups, black, white, Hispanic. You might be surprised. So I think you should wake up and remember, for those of you in Portland, that Portland is not an island. And some of you have your white Portland privilege and you don't know it. Whether it be the cheap cost of marijuana that some people brag about, or to go out and hang out in awesome places, you don't know what it's like to be banished from this beautiful, beautiful city, one of the most magical cities on earth, now being vampired on. Okay, Archuleta County is to the west by a few hours of Costilla. Costilla is north of Taos. While Taos is nice for the earth ships, it's too expensive. So unless you like the hipster yuppie thing and you got a lot of money, if you're really into status and what people think about you, then maybe you'll do the earth ship thing there. There's also other places in New Mexico that you might want to try that are less trendy. There's Nice Taos, which is where the nicer plots are. Then there's the Mesa, which I've never been, which there's a movie about. So when you go in those environments, you're getting close to the earth, but you'll be around Nazis, tweakers, pedophiles, and people involved in the cartel. And I've been invited to join someone for a camping trip, maybe in the future, and that's an area that's been overrun by the criminal element, and there isn't any known spirituality there. So for those of you that are spiritual in the city, I always was disappointed in you for not just basically organizing a 100-person type spiritual camping retreat, especially if you include alternative media and talking about the truth. This driving down to Burning Man from Portland and other places, burning a bunch of gasoline is sad. So if one of you organizes raves, if one of you organizes parties, if one of you organizes, talk to me now. Talk to me now. And I'll tell you some really interesting places in Colorado to put on a party. But we're not going to create a scene, create a problem. We're talking about maybe a get-together of a few people. Not like something that's going to make the news. Not a rainbow family gathering. A few people. I do not like people that disrespect the earth, and there are a lot of off-gridders that believe that they are at war with the earth. I keep checking to make sure my camera's on, because this is an epic speech. You see, this is when the energy is coming in. And this is the year in which I need to speak a lot. And so for some of you that want to help me help others by taking my text and putting it in blogs. There are other areas in Colorado that are in the San Luis Valley, that are outside of Costilla County, where you can also live off-grid in a tiny home, but you have to have a septic system. But in the event of an emergency, if you buy land, how are they going to stop you if your city has been nuked? So already know these places, and if the route to these places is likely to be shut down from an emergency. So we covered Florida, we covered New York and DC. I worry about the ethnic people in Northern Virginia and what they're going to do if they go into an ethno-state situation and the government is taken over. I worry about them. I believe that they're weaponizing migration, and they might have some false flags that turn Americans against immigrants and even people that look or sound or have Islamic last names. And so if you actually give a damn about people and your favorite truthers, you need to go to Google if you never went to history class and you smoke weed all day long, not that I judge that, but find out what the word Underground Railroad is, how it related to the slaves, and how it would relate in a post-ethno-state dystopian reality. Then get back to me. I also open up Signal for encryption communication. If one of you wants to help me receive mail, so someone can contact me by bypassing the grid and surveillance, this needs to happen. One of you needs to emerge, set up a P.O. box for Alex Ansary, have it activated, receive my mail, filter it, use gloves, examine it, and then forward to me. This needs to happen. So we covered the East Coast, the North, the South, Florida. We covered Colorado. We covered these places. What's left? There's going to be a mass exodus if Houston is attacked. Houston is one of the 6 target cities. Houston has had a lot of Chinese influence. Houston has seen situations in which Chinese diplomats have been involved in shady things. Houston is near League City, Texas, which I single-handedly reported on in 2012 as Chinese police literally were trained. This is for you ACAB folks, ACAB worldwide. This is for you. Not that I subscribe to that necessarily, even though cops have done wrong to me. You know, what are you going to do about sexual assault? What are you going to do about women being kidnapped? Unless you can tell me how you're going to prevent women in Portland from being kidnapped, and that includes you, pretty women. Don't act like the things that the U.S. has done is going to be ignored and it won't be taken out on you. Look at what they did to the innocent Iraqis and Afghanis. Look at how what Israel has done to Gaza is being brought up on the world court, and they don't care about you protesting what they've done to Palestine. Where were you when they were doing that to Afghanistan? And where were you when I was homeless? And so they don't care that you know what Israel's doing. It's all part of the script for aspects of the world to fire on Israel to bring about their stage-managed biblical end-time scenario. Again, flip off ground zero and his Antichrist theories. Ditch the zero, get with the hero, come with me if you want to live. And I mean that in a literal sense, in a figurative sense, in a spiritual sense. I've been waiting for this year for maybe even lifetimes. I really don't know. And you also got to know that the Essenes predicted some major cycle, 2025 to 2075. And the late, I won't call him so great because he seemed to really hate Muslims sometimes, but he had some good stuff. Skywatch TV, Tom Horn, talked about the Essenes and the cycle. So there may be some good places to go off-grid, but the Texas grid is under attack from China and Russia. And a lot of people in Texas lean towards the right. There are people that lean towards the left in Texas too. So I would encourage those folks to get also a little bit more organized and operate totally outside of Antifa if you can, because of some of the corruption within Antifa. Just be nonpartisan and be open to different people and hear out people from different understandings and cultures, and put your money where your mouth is if you truly do appreciate various people around the world and you're not like him and the others. Don't just react because you don't like how Trump is doing things. You should already be practicing. You should already be getting off grid. You should already be reducing your time on social media. You should already be writing a book if you have anything intelligent to say, because if the EMP strikes, our YouTube channels are going down, and all it's going to be left is what we put in writing. Would you like to help me write a book? Would you like to help fund or distribute? Would you like to help distribute that book? Okay, I want to keep my words safe here because this is going to go on cable access. Would you like to assist in the distribution of a book, as simple as even sharing it? Okay, but I suspect Portland, Oregon is going to have a wave of kidnappings during a collapse, and maybe even China working with the cartel, and people are telling me that the cartel is there. While I support the homeless, some homeless have told me they've been attacked and assaulted by other homeless that are Nazis. So what you have is some sort of like scenario out of like, Joker, with not just the angry protesters that at times might attack a minority-owned business. You also have some angry homeless that are not really deserving, some of them, because they're not off the drugs and they haven't come to Jesus or a higher form of spirituality with respect to their lives other than their own. You have a lot of damaged people there. Okay, and so this is a recipe for disaster. There is a company in Oregon called Azure Standard, and Azure Standard delivers around the nation. If you are on Azure Standard's route, you don't have to spend a marked up price, at one of these websites. And this is not a commercial. Let me use my words carefully. Listen, you need to get prepared, and there are certain places where you can go online. And I'm just saying that I have ordered from Azure Standard in the past. This is not a commercial. This is not a call to action. I am saying that I have gone to Azure Standard in the past, and I have bought quinoa at $2 a pound, and I prepped in 2007 with a former girlfriend that I call P, who later went on to date a soldier and people that kill people that look like me. But that aside, and she also got into QAnon and worshiping Donald Trump. And she has a master's degree. She got all these people that want to act like, it's all about their idea of higher education, but yet they don't understand that higher education comes from God. So I'm not a misogynist and I don't hate men, but I believe that most men and women are robots, right? And I'm alone in this, right? You might like me and Clyde Lewis. You might like me and Alex Jones. But the truth is, other than a guy like Aaron France, who I think has a small show out there, nobody likes me in the truth movement. And all I've done has been right. Over and over and over again. Again, Qigong, right? Harness the power of the sun. I'm going to have a Dion Fortune Facebook group. Look for my name and Dion Fortune on Facebook. And let's do mass meditations during the full moons and some new moons. And maybe a national day of prayer. And we're going to focus on the solar cross and protection coming for those servants of God. Because evil is marching on the earth. And so if you think this is just about, surrounding